This is the first conference that looks specifically at the mental health of LGBT people of color. Is there anybody here to contradict that? Is anybody can dispute that? Because a lot of people go to conferences, but can anybody dispute that this is the first conference that is focused specifically on the mental health of LGBT people of color? Everybody has a conference. Everybody puts on a workshop or a seminar or a summit, and they will talk about mental health in a workshop or a presentation or a plenary or something, some aspect of mental health. But nobody has actually done this where the entire conference is dedicated to mental health of us. That sounds grammatically incorrect. Our mental health, okay? But this morning, in a lot of our workshops and presentations, we looked at the issues that we face daily, that we live with. Some people were actually very and pleasantly and extraordinarily surprised by some of the presentations, some of the information that they got, because we're like, I never knew that before. Okay? I just stopped into one workshop. Is Jesus here? Oh, he's left. Jesus Barrios, who's a student who did a workshop on detention and immigrants and LGBT immigrants. And I just stopped in to look, and there was this thing on the screen to talk about that the federal government is mandated to incarcerate 34,000 immigrants annually. Yes, by law. Yes, to detain them, 34,000, and that blew my mind. So you can imagine what other issues those immigrants are dealing with. Can you imagine some of the other issues that are coming up in some of the other workshops? Now, going into the afternoon now, as you see from the program, we want to be able to look at what strategies you can use, or what strategies you may be able to help others use to work towards their own mental health and healing. And to help us do that this afternoon is, I don't know how long she's been in this country, but I think she might be Trinidadian, so we're like 50 minutes flying time by Liat from Guyana to Trinidad, so she's a neighbor. I'd like to introduce you to Karen Naimool, who's going to help us begin that conversation of working on strategies, on ways to be able to improve our mental health. All right? So we good? Yes. So would you please welcome Karen? Okay, knock yourself out.
Hi, can everyone hear me? Because I tend to move a lot.
Use a handheld instead.
No, because I'll drop it. So yes, I am Trinidadian. I have been in this country since 2003, and the very first time I got off the plane, because I came for school, I was detained. So I can tell you it's not a lot of fun. There's a male terrorist whose first name is my last name. And that was enough for me to get detained in 2003. And that's what I want to talk about. So we're talking about mental health and people of color. And we talk about substance abuse use. We talk about homelessness. We talk about diabetes. We talk about aggression. We talk about anger management. And then we say these scary statistics that say, and this group experiences it more than this group. But we never stop to ask why. And so some of my experience, I worked in residential for 15 years as a recreational therapist. Way before that, I had a whole other career in corporate, international accounting and finance. I don't know why I changed, but I'm happier. And so I moved to this country to go to school. My goal was not to stay here. I just wanted to come get a free education, because I could get a decent scholarship and just continue with my life and my work. But I also thought that as I was someone from the Caribbean, I was black. I know some of you are like, what? In the islands, if you're not white, you're black. If you're not white, you're black. That's it. And so I had no idea how culture impacted what race was, or racism, or prejudice. I had never experienced it before until I decided to go to a historically black college, which I went to Spelman. So I was informed how black I was not every day in class. Yet I knew more history about slavery, colonialism, imperialism, indentured labor than anyone else, I think, in the entire campus other than the other Caribbean students. And that started to scare me because for my entire life, I thought I was black. And then I came to the US and I found out that I was South Asian / something else. I'm not even sure because I just filled out one of those forms and I had to write everything in. So I wrote in South Asian / West Indian, also East Indian. And I also found out from my mother that I am part native peoples from the Amazonian forest in Guyana. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Because now I have to change my entire spiel when I go into space. Because what I do is I say that psychotherapy is not going to work with people of color. Not yet. It can't. It cannot work with people of color because they don't know who they are. You cannot address your depression because you lost your job when you haven't acknowledged that you still carry the trauma of all of your ancestors. And that is really scary because now all the fancy research is telling us that we carry in our genes the trauma of rape, incest, migration, forced migration, war, slavery, indentured labor, incarceration. We carry that in our genes. So if something happened to your great-great-great-grandparents and you don't even know, you're still going to feel it. You're still going to have those genes in your body that are going to be triggered by any new stress that happens to you. And as a person of color, the opportunities for those stressful incidents to happen increase every day. They increase as you get older, as your weight changes, as your ability changes. Those stressors increase the darker color of your skin. It increases based on your gender presentation. So if you look into, the program, I had long hair. I made this wonderful decision 2 days ago to just chop everything off. And so no one's recognized me. So it was good. Thank you. But that's something I do. I have this whole thing where I talk about anger management. And I worked with teenagers. And they look at me and they're like, you don't understand why I'm angry. And I said, I can't understand why you're angry because you don't know why you're angry. If you are growing up in a neighborhood where you do not have access to food, healthy food, a safe place to sleep, someone who you can go and just sit with when you're depressed or sad or angry, you're not happy. You're in a constant survival cycle. And that's what's happening with everyone of color, I think, around the world. You're in a constant survival cycle. And what happens with people of color is that they do not have access to healing methods and coping skills. Because sadly, all of the cultural coping skills, all of the community coping skills, all of the healing methods that were culturally part of their ancestry have been deliberately stripped away. I cannot go to a yoga studio and feel comfortable. I do not fit in. I cannot say namaste without feeling ashamed and embarrassed that I only know like 5 phrases in Hindi, 2 in Urdu, and I vaguely know where my great-grandparents are from. That is my trauma. When I walk into a meditation studio and someone bows to me and starts to initiate this process, and the person teaching me about meditation has no idea that I've been meditating with my grandmother since I was 3 years old. But they're the teacher because they just got certified from some school with however many credits of time. That is traumatic. That is trauma. It is trauma when you go to a dance class and they're doing hip-hop moves and they expect you to know what they're doing because you're from the Caribbean, or you're black, or you're Latina. We've created stereotypes for people of color. We've stripped, and I'm saying we because we're all part of it. We're all going to school, we're all doing the same classes, we all run our sessions the same way. We ask someone, and how does that make you feel? Isn't that just like, how does that make you feel? Tell me more. Open-ended questions. We're giving open-ended, loaded gun questions to someone who has never been able to find a safe space to sit quietly and think, who am I? How many of you in here have said, how does that make you feel? Okay, and how many of you said, and what do you think you should do about it? So we're giving autonomy to people who've not had any autonomy for their entire lives. They're told how to stand in line, where to go. You can't do that. You're too white, you're too black, your accent's too thick. You lost your accent, you're not that anymore. It's horrible. It's horrible to stand up and know that I am brown, and everywhere I go, I will always be brown. And that I listen to rock music and reggae and calypso and soca and Indian ragas, and every group I sit in and I say, listen to this too, they're like, you? Really? But I'm a product of my environment. And I'm still coping. A lot of us in here don't recognize that the trauma we've experienced from just being different, or our clients, what they've experienced from being different, they carry it with them everywhere. And we've taken away coping skills. We took away the coping skills of small African villages where they would sit and talk and use oral narratives to tell stories and teach lessons. Slavery made people stop sitting together and talking about their stories. They stopped celebrating as a community. We taught little black girls and boys not to go in the woods and be with nature. We taught them, don't speak in this language, you won't get a job. We taught them, if you wear certain colors, people will think you don't know what you're talking about. So we wear conservative blue, conservative black, we do the power suits, we wear the pumps, you wear something with flair. If you're a person of color, that's going to be too ethnic. And as therapists, providers, teachers, educators, we need to acknowledge that when a child or an adult or a person of color walks into the room, actually anyone, because we have no idea who they are, walk into a room, they're carrying all of that with them. And psychotherapy will not work because you cannot articulate your pain when you don't understand it. And so how do we stop the cycle? So I do a lot of work with teenagers, and I do workshops and facilitation where I train staff on how to create safe spaces. And usually it boils down to them saying, that's kind of hard. Can you give us a list of things we can do? And I'm like, all gendered bathrooms, change your forms, smile at everyone who walks in your door. Little things. All those little things count. Ask someone to tell you who they are before you figure it out for them. We do that all the time, right? We walk up to someone and say, I know you from somewhere. And then you're like, no, but in the back of your head, you're like, not all of us look the same. And that's happened a lot. And I do it a lot. There are certain groups of the population, I won't name them, that I struggle to recognize as individuals. And that's because I'm not exposed. And I'm not putting myself out there to learn. And so what I do is I do this exercise, and I ask people to take 1 minute and think about who you are and what you bring into the room. And so I say, I'm queer, I am a woman, I had to write it down because I forget it sometimes. I am Trinidadian, I am Indian, I am Hindu and Buddhist. It's very complicated. I am gender non-conforming, and I'm also a sexual minority, which I don't put into queer. And I will not expand on that because I don't think this is that kind of conference. And that's just part of my identity. There's more, because I've done a lot of work on myself. I mean, who are you? I want you to take 60 seconds and just really sit and think about it. There's going to be a lot of silence in this. And silence is your friend. It is going to be uncomfortable. But if you cannot sit in silence, how can you expect your clients to be able to sit with themselves to get an answer? So you have 60 seconds to think about who you are and what you bring into this space. Okay, so that's your 60 seconds. Have you guys managed to focus on anything other than how long do I have left? How much more time is left for this? Why am I here? I should have eaten something with vegetables. Was anyone able to actually sit and come up with something different? You were?
Well, I do it all the time because I'm an activist. So I am a minority within a minority within a minority within a minority. And what I bring into this group is I put my face as a white guy on being gay, gay with HIV, gay with bipolar, gay with a meth addiction, and here I am, and I, if I can be clean, so can you. And people look at me and they're like, and you know, in the LGBT community, I get more stigma within our own community.
Yeah.
That's what I do. And I'm a bipolar guy.
I was married to someone who had bipolar. Anyone else? Yes.
It was just actually like first it started with like observable, and then second I thought like create, you know, things I do to more kind of internal creativity. I don't know if that helps. I know what someone would see, like what someone else would say about me, to kind of things that I started to identify.
And that's so real. I mean, you've done the work. You're an activist. You've had to go in and say who you are. But for most people of color, the voices they hear, the identities they carry, are the ones that other people have put on them. When I go to an airport, I am always randomly selected for the body scan. Always. I have never not been randomly selected. It's funny, right? It's also not funny, because I start undressing Like, I'm just gonna go in flip-flops. It's snowing. I don't care. I'm not wearing a belt. I'm just gonna wear shorts. And it is stressful. I hate traveling, and I also love going places. But I hate the actual just like 10 minutes in the airport. Every time. Every time I am randomly selected. I don't even know why I use the word random anymore. Every time. I've been at the front of the line, and they've come and said, come over here. And that's the message we're giving to our clients. Because we don't give them the space to heal and be quiet enough to answer our questions. How are you feeling? How does that make you feel? What is going on? You cannot expect someone to answer, I am depressed because so-and-so, 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 when they don't even know who their great-grandparents are. They don't even know what their medical history is, and now they're suddenly getting these symptoms, and they're trying to figure out if it's a genetic disorder, or do I have to start from scratch? Like I would like to say that some of us are privileged in knowing this, but I just think some of us are just lucky. Like, it's luck. My grandfather told me the story in like part Hindi, part English, where he was like, I went to look for a job, and now I am in Trinidad. That's his story. He's like, they said, come with me. I'm going to take you to go work over here. And he was in another country. That's it. That's where my entire lineage starts, on that side of my family. That is depressing. It is so depressing. I can't go to India now because I feel uncomfortable and weird. And yesterday I was in the yoga studio and I heard two women talking about their visits to to India to do yoga, and how this place was amazing and this place is not so amazing. Like, don't go there. And I'm just standing there and I'm like, I will never be able to go to India and be treated the way they were treated because of the color of my skin. And I will also never be able to go to India and understand what my people were saying. And that's only those people that I know about. And so the healing methods and the coping skills that I teach the kids is how to sit and breathe. And it's very, very complicated. I've managed to get teenagers to sit for 5 minutes just listening to their breath. It took me 3 months. 3 months. And I can tell you that all of those kids are doing well today. All of them. I worked in a residential facility for 6 years. Before that, I worked with the city of Atlanta and worked with their entire inner city population. And in both positions, I was a department of one, because that's how much we care about kids of color. I was a department of one that served the needs of 200 kids. Anger management and substance abuse prevention work. I was a department of one. And it got me mad every day to just say, you want more from me? I also trained all of the incoming staff on cultural competence and working with LGBTQ youth because I was the token. And they said it, I said it. The agency that I worked at was absolutely amazing. And I only left them because it got too hard to lose kids. Our bodies are in constant survival mode. We need to figure out how to stop and think. Journaling is an amazing tool for healing. If you can get your clients to write down something just for them, and I don't want you to give them homework and then ask them if they did it, just for themselves, what they're doing is moving out of fight or flight and putting it into their prefrontal cortex. I'm a big fan of neuropsychology. Psychotherapy, not so much, because it's all chemical. When something significant happens to you and triggers you and you're in trauma, it's all chemical. And your brain doesn't understand it, but your body remembers it. And people say it all the time, your body remembers. And when you get triggered, your body is trying to tell your brain, we need to reconcile. We need to fix this. You get your clients to journal. You get them to talk. You get them to sing. You get them to trust their bodies. Take a walk. Go swimming. Run. Sleep. Sleep is a really big one. I'm a big fan of melatonin. When I need it, I take it. I sleep. I'm being honest, like all of these skills I've had to use for myself in the last 5 years. I've had to use it with kids who I knew were going to jail. They're in jail and they're still using their coping skills, and they write me every week. That's their journal entries. I get journal entries from kids in jail every week. And they're beautiful, and they're doing so much better than I am. So it's working. I know it's working, and it's really simple. All of those rituals that were stripped from people of color, having a community, having conversation, music, dance, writing, journaling. Until a client can sit and be with themselves, you're not going to get anything out of psychotherapy. Other than they will know when you're actually listening and taking notes, or when you're just done and it's become a cycle. And I'll be honest, I've been in therapy. My therapist and I now meet for coffee. Well, I had to train her. And so one exercise I do with kids, and we're all going to do it, it's going to be 2 minutes. I know I'm over time. It's 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes, and I'm just going to ask you to breathe. And I usually expand this for about 15 minutes. That's as much as I can get with teenagers. So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. You are safe. Everyone else has their eyes closed, so no one's looking at you. Close your eyes. And I'm going to ask you to inhale slowly for 4 seconds. And then you're going to hold it for 4 seconds. And then you're going to exhale slowly for 4 seconds. And then just before you inhale, wait 4 seconds. And then inhale 4 seconds. Hold it 4 seconds. Exhale 4 seconds and wait. Inhale again. And so you're just going to repeat that cycle. You're still in a safe place. You're safe. Right now I want you to think about your feet. Wiggle your toes if you can. Relieve any tension. I want you to flex your calves. Release any tension. If you have any tension in your back, a lot of us have pain in our back from stress and trauma. I want you to tense your back so you know it's there and just sort of let it go with that breath. And then your shoulders and your arms. And right now you do not have to do anything except breathe. You're still in a safe space. And then I'm going to ask you to just smile. Just smile. Just quietly smile. And as you're smiling, you're in the sunshine. It's not too hot. You don't need sunblock. You're fine. You're safe. You're feeling the heat on your face. It's radiating throughout your body. And now it's coming out in that smile. So now you're smiling all of that amazing sunshine. And then you open your eyes. And you do that every day. And I guarantee you, you're on your path to good mental health. That's it.
So thank you very much again, Karen. Incidentally, some of what you're talking about, in my own preparation, some of my friends are actually saying that the work that I'm doing today, I've been preparing for it for a long time, for several years. And I used to do some of that awareness exercises, which is some of what I think you were talking about. Whether she agrees with me or not, she's going to say yes, because we're in public.
Not really. Not really.
But thank you very much again, Karen. And I'm really glad that you were able to come and share this with us. Perhaps there may be another occasion when you can actually do the whole 15-minute exercise with everybody. What do you think?
Okay.
Even though we probably have to have a pot of coffee waiting outside so you can all wake up after 15 minutes, right?
They won't need it. They'll be on endorphins.
What I'd like to do now, so thank you. So we're just going to have a quick 5-minute break. and then we'll go into our third concurrent session, workshops. So there's going to be, let's say it's now 2:15, so let's say 2:25, we begin our new series of workshops. Is that cool? Are you guys ready to go, or are you just, how are you feeling? You all feeling good? All right, well, let's show some enthusiasm already. Thank you.